Hello React Native developers, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how you can build this beautiful animation in React Native. So I got this inspiration for this animation from Airbnb. In this animation we have two components or two animations going through. First is the when we click on this book or this item, it opens or transitions like a book, like we are opening a book. And the second is when we are changing its position and sticking it to model. So whenever model moves, whether it goes to top or it goes to down, so it will stick to that position, and when we are closing it, it will go back to its original position in the same animation which we started it. So let's get started with the video. So I have already added some dummy data and dummy screen to this project. As you can see, I have a list view where I'm showing different Airbnb properties, and we are going to add that book at the bottom left of this image, and then we are going to do the transition of that book to a flip animation, and then we are add that to the model, and then we will transit it like that. So to give you a clear overview of this, I have already installed React Native gesture handler, modelize, reanimated, and portal in this project, and also I have a screen named home screen where I have added these designs and this list where I have a listing component where I have the flat list, and then I'm rendering this list item. So we are going to add that book at this position. For that, let's create a component and let's do the animation of that component. So that will be in book animation.js, and let's import it. Let's import React first because we are getting some warning. Okay, import. And now let's import that book animation here. If we do this now, we can see our text is visible after this image, but we need the position to be absolute. So let's make this position to be absolute. Position absolute. Left it will be 30 and bottom it will be 100. So if we do this now, our text is at the bottom left and 100 pixels above the bottom axis. So now let's add our view. So the book animation will work like this. We will have a left component and a right component. On the left component we will have two components inside that, front facing and the back facing. In the front facing we will have just the image, and in the back facing we will have the image, the name, and the superhost label. So we are going to flip front and back of left component like that way that it animate like a book animation, like a flip animation. So it's better I show you how I'm going to do this. Let's remove this. So first we will create view styles.left. Then inside this we will have styles.front. Then we will have back view styles.back, and then we will have a right component. So view styles.right. So these are the main components which will be in the host picture and the book animation. So let's style them. First let's style the front. So front will be position is absolute, width and height will be 200 pixels, width will be 200, height is again 200. Then I will add background color, it will be white. Then let's add some border radius, it is 16. Also we will add the shadow. So before doing that, let me show you how it is visible now. So you can see we have a square with 200 width and height and with background white. Now let's add some shadow here. So shadow color will be gray, shadow offset, width and height will be 0, shadow opacity 0.5, and shadow radius to 10. So if we do this, now we can see we have a nice shadow effect on this card. Now let's add some content in this. So in the front view we will only have the image. So let's import the image. Image is equal to style, styles.avatar, and source URI. Let's import some URI of this avatar from my other code. So it will be user image, and let's add this. And also let's import the image from React Native. So now if we do this, our image is not visible because we have not defined the style for avatar. So it will be width 128, height 128, border radius 64. So if we do this, now we can see our image is visible, but it is not centered. So let's center it. Align items, center, justify content, center. So if we do this, now we can see our image is visible perfectly in the center of the card. So now let's add the back animation. Not the back animation, let's add the back card. So for the back, let's define the style. It will be identical till this. Position is absolute, width, height, and then we will also make sure align item is center. So now you can see our back card is on top of this front card. So now let's add content to this back card. I will add the border radius to this border 16, and now let's add the content. So it will be the same image. View image is visible. Now we will add the text. It will be in heading. Let's add some names, Marshall, and now let's add some label. So it is a super host. So he is a super host. Now let's add some styling to this title. Styles.headline, styles.subheadline. Let's define this. Headline font size is 17, font weight is 700. Subheadline font size is 14, font weight is 400. And font color is grays. Now also add some gap between these items, so gap will be 8. So now we can see our back card is ready and our front card is ready. Now let's add some animation to this. So let's first make the front card an animated view. Import the animated, and let's add the styling for the front card. Also let's create a value which we will animate and we will be able to see it. So use set value, it will be 0 initially. Now let's add const front style. It will be use animated style because we are using reanimated, not using animated. It is use animated style. And now we will interpolate the y-axis. So let's transform that. So transform, rotate y, and let's interpolate the degree. Spin degree is equal to interpolate spin dot value 0 to 1, and we will interpolate it between 0 to minus 180. 0 minus 180 degree. Let's add the clamp. Spin degree. Now let's add the style to animated view. So if we do this, nothing will work because we are not animating the spin value. So let's do that. I will add a touchable opacity from React Native, and let's wrap it on press on animate. Const on animate, we will animate the spin value with 0 to 1. So spin dot value we will use with timing. If value is 0, we will make it 1. If it is already 1, we will make it 0, and duration will be 800. So if we do this, you can see we have some animation going on, but it is not very clear. So let's also animate the back card so it stays behind the front card. We will just copy this back style and it will be 180 to 0 because it's in the front. So initially it will be already flipped, and when we are going to 1 it will be at the 0, so we can see front axis. So back style, again animated.view, let's add. So now as you can see, we are able to see the back and mirror of this back card. To disable this, we need to make back face visibility to hidden, and same we will do for the front card. So now if I click on this, now you can see we have a cool animation of flipping the card with some transitions. Yeah, so our now left part is done. Now let's work on the right part. Now let's add some content to the right part. I will copy from my other project. So it will be a text and some headlines. So as you can see right now, we don't have any background for the right card, and we also don't have any styling added there. So let's add the styling. Right. Again, position is absolute. Background color is white. We will make the width of this card to 150 because it contains less data, and we will have the maximum part of this whole card to the left side. So height will be same, 200. If we save this, it is now hiding our main view, main front and back. So we will add Z index. Let's say it will be -100. Now it is properly hidden. Now let's add align items. Align items, we will make align items to flex start, and content will be centered. We will add the padding to 16. As it is behind the front card, and when we are opening, so only the right axis or right side of the card have the border radius. So now let's add the border radius for the right side. Border top, left radius 16, border bottom, right radius 16. So now if we do this, now you can see our card is also looking nice, and when we are flipping, it is looking good. Okay, not the left axis, actually it will be right. Yeah. So now when we are flipping, it is looking good. So now we will animate the x-axis and y-axis for the container and for these cards. Let's do that. Let's make this view an animated view. And we will add this style to touchable opacity, and for this style will be container style. And let's create this container style. Const container style is equal to use animated style. So in this we will animate the x and y axis of the card. So let's do that. Transform. First let's position it to exactly where we have the exact animation. So we will scale it down to 0.3. Interpolate. Spin dot value 0 to 1. So initially it will be scaled down to 0.3, and then we will scale it to 1. So if we do this, now you can see our card is now properly set to left axis, to left side of the bottom part, and when we are animating, it is scaling up. After that, we will add the x-axis, because as we are scaling, we also need to move the x-axis. So let's do that. Translate x, interpolate, spin dot value 0 to 1, And first we will see what happens when we do it to 20, and it will be a clamp. So now you can see our axis is moving right, but before that we have to move the left part to the left side so that our main axis is visible, our right side is visible. So let's add the left styling. Const left style is equal to use animated style, return transform. So we will use the translate x to interpolate. Spin dot value, it will be 0 to 1 and 0 to 190, let's say, for instance now. And we will add it to this view, animated dot view. So if I add this translation, then you can see our card is going that side. But this is not what we want. So for that, let's animate translate x to some value. Let's say what is, so let's move it to 100. Yes, it is working fine, but as you can see, the left part is going on the right sides. To fix that, we will make it 190. If we do that, then you can already see that we have a nice animation, but it is still on the left side. So for making it center, let's say it will be 160. Yeah, 160 looks good to me right now, but I will make it 170 to make it center. And let's also translate the y. Translate y, interpolate, spin dot value 0 to 1, and it will be initially at 0, and then we will move it to 100. So we can see that it is properly visible on the top. Let's make it 200. Okay, so our flip animation is working fine, but we still have some loopholes. Like you can see, we have the border radius on the left side of the back. So let's interpolate that where we have the back styling. This is border radius. Let's remove it from here and let's interpolate it with styling. So back style, and then we will interpolate it. Border, top left radius, will be interpolate, spin dot value. We are only interpolating left side of the radius because right will be always 0. So let's do that. Bottom left radius. So now you can see our card in the full view is looking very good, but we still have some styling issue. Let's add the missing style for the underline. Width 1, height 1, width is 100%, and background color will be, let's say, light gray. And on the right side, I'll add a gap of 8. 8 is too much. Let's add 4. Yeah. So now our flip animation is looking good, but we still have some issue. Like you can see, we are not adding the border radius on the left side of the front card. So for the front card, let's add the border radius. Not the border radius, but we need also some scaling or some rotation, because right now it is a square, not a book type animation. So let's add to the container. We will add the rotate. So left style, let's add the rotation to this. Rotate y, const spin degree is equal to interpolate, spin dot value 0 to 1. So initially it should be -55 and then it will be 0. and we will add the clamp. And now let's add the spin degree here. So it will give us an effect of a book if we do that. Okay, we were missing this. So now as you can see, we have a nice effect of book, but if we add 45, let's say 50, we have a nice effect, but let's add some perspective so it will be more clear. Perspective, let's say 1000, and now let's add the 45, 55. Yeah, so now it looks like a book, and now when we're clicking on this, it is opening nicely, and we have completed the 50% of this animation. We have the flip book animation ready. Now we have to implement the model, and we have to place this book inside that model, and then we are good with this animation. So now let's create that model. I will create a new component with name detail model.js, and I will export some default data, and then I will use the modelize for this model, and to open this I will pass the ref. So model ref, it will be ref is equal to model ref, and now let's use it in the listing. I will pass detail model ref is equal to ref. Let's import the ref from use modelize. So now we have model, but we can't see it right now because we are not passing on press function. So let's pass that cost on press ref dot current dot open. So this will open the model. Let's pass it open on press. Okay, on press is equal to on press, and in the listing let's add this function on press, and we will pass this to the book animation. And in the book animation I will use this instead of animating the shared value. So if I do this, then it should open the model. Yeah, it is opening the model right way. So now let's add some content to this model. I will copy the content from my other files. So it will be yeah, this is good. I will import the icon from React Native vector icons, and I will also import the style. So there is just one style which I need to import, row. Okay, so now our model is looking good. Let's add some snap point to this model. It will be 500, so it is basically at what point our model first opens. So if I add 500, then it will stay here. It looks good now. Let's set the handle position to inside, and as you can see right now, our text and icons are on the top side of the model, but we also need to show our card at this position. So we will add some padding from top so that we can process that book flip animation to this card and place it here. So let's add the padding. Top, it will be type 250 because 200 is the height of our card, and I need to add some padding. So let's do this. Yeah, so now our model looks good. Let's use the animation to do this. I will create a shared value for spin here. So use shared value. Initially it will be 0, and I will pass it inside list item. Spin. Actually not in the list item, because the book which is inside this image, it will be stay always there, so we don't want to animate this animation. So I will not pass it here. I will just use it from this, and I will use the portal to add our book animation to this whole view. So what portal do is, when we pass some components inside this portal view, they will be rendered inside the root view, not inside any flat list or not inside any component. They will be on the root view, and they will be visible on top of everything. So let's import the book animation. and I will pass the spin to this. So we can see our book is visible here now. Let me try to animate it. So spin, not value, with timing 0, and duration will be 800. It will not work because we are not using the spin value. So let's do that. Const spin, and we will remove the spin. So we are getting this error because in the list item we have not defined this spin. So let's define it here. Const spin is equal to, it will be always 0 because we want the book animation to be closed state when we are in the image view or in the listing. So let's add the spin. So now as you can see, when I'm pressing this, the portal book is opening nicely on the model. So let's place it at the right position in the model. So right position, what will be right position? So before placing it at right position, I want to make sure like where I'm clicking, it should open from that only. So to do that, we will use the event from touchable opacity and use the initial X and initial Y for this book flip. So let's create const initial X is equal to use shared value 0. Initially it will be 0. Const initial Y, it will be use shared value 0. And we get the event from touchable opacity on press, and we get some values I will show you in the console log. So const e dot native event. So when I do this, you can see I'm getting page X, location Y, location X, and page Y. So what does it mean? So when I'm clicking here on the screen, the page Y is the distance from this top point to this point, and the location Y is from this point to the top of the object which is I'm clicking. So to get the exact X and Y axis of this card, we need to subtract location Y minus page Y minus location X. So let's do that. Initial Y dot value is equal to e dot native event dot page Y minus e dot native event dot location Y, and we will pass this inside this book animation, initial Y and initial X. So let's pass it and let's use it inside book animation. Initial X, initial Y. In the container, it will be initial X, not initial X dot value, and then again in initial X dot value. So again we are getting this error because we are not passing it inside this. So I will copy this and pass it inside list item, and initial X and initial Y is initial Y. So if I do this, let me reload this first, and if I disable this opening of model and I just make sure the position is good, so why it is not reflecting? So it is at the bottom, but why I'm clicking here? Let me see. Okay, so that is because we are transforming the scale first and then we are using the translate X and translate Y. So we need to do the calculation of translate X, translate Y first, and then we have to scale it down. So if I do this, then you can see where we have let me see what is the initial X and initial Y. Book animation, initial X dot value, initial Y dot value, and let's reload this. Let me see if I'm doing the animation correctly. Initial y, initial x. Okay, it is coming from somewhere else, but it should. So if I do location y, let me check in this. Oh, okay, so we have this bottom 100 right now. If we do this, then you can see let me disable this opening. Then you can see we are getting the value, but it is not exact. That is because we are scaling down the object to 0.3, and location y is still at this one scale to 1. So if we do that 0.35, that is because I have added some padding too. And if I do this, then you can see the y-axis is properly aligned to this object. So now let's add the initial x will be always same because we are not scrolling it to x-axis. So let's say x will be 18, and I will reload this. So now you can see this is perfectly aligned. You can see it. Yeah, this is perfectly aligned. And also by removing this bottom 100, our list item position is also changed. So for doing that, let's add some values. Let's say 120, and okay, at 120 it is in the center. I will add 220, or let's say I will add 300. Then it will be a perfect location. Why I'm not getting the perfect location? Okay, so this location is perfect now. And if I enable the animation, let me just do that. Oh, by removing that bottom 100, we also need to fix this interpolation for the y and axis. So it will be not minus, it will be 200, and I think x is good. Let's try this. Okay, 200 is not good. Let's say 400. 430 will be perfect. Okay, 410 is perfect, and x-axis will be 200. I'm not making anything like this. Yeah, so now it is perfectly aligned. You can see it. Now let's add some close animations to this model. On close, let's pass a function const on close. So on close model, we want spin value to be 0. So let's do that. On close, it is 0. We're opening the, yes, so we are getting the close animation working fine. So now if I'm clicking on this, I also want to close this. No, it is fine. I don't want to close it. So now our almost 90% work is done, as when we are clicking on it, it is opening nicely and closing it. But we still have the issue. The first issue is when we are scrolling it, the portal view is still visible, and when we open it and close, and when we try to reopen it again, it is not opening because the portal view is still on the top of the bottom view, which have the list item and the book closed book. So we have to disable the pointer events for the portal view when it is closed. So first let's make the opacity of this portal view to hidden. So opacity, it will be interpolate spin dot value 0 to 0.01. I want to open it instantly when the value is 0.01. So initially it will be 0 opacity and then 1. So if we do this, we can see we are not able to see that portal view now. And when we open it, when we click on this, it opens it nicely, but second issue is still there. So we have to set the active state and active state for this. Const is active, set active is equal to use state. initially it is not active. So if it is not active, then we won't need to be disabled. So let's say pointer events is active, pointer events none. If it is active, then we will set it to auto. So if spin dot value is equal to 0, which means set active to true, else set active to false. So if we do this, okay, we are getting this error because we are calling this JavaScript function inside this worklet. So let's click run on JS. Let's import this function and we will pass this, and same for the false. So if we do this and I will reload this, you can see our view is opening fine, and again when I'm clicking it, it is working perfectly fine for me. So now the next task is, as we have clicked on this button and the book is open, we can still see the view which was on the list item. We need to hide this. We need to hide the opacity of this. So we need to check which index is active, and if it is active, then we have to disable or change the opacity to this. So let's do this. In the listing, we will set const active index, set active index is equal to use state. Initially it will be -1 as not any part is selected, and then we pass it to on plus e index, and we can get the index from the render item. So when we do this, we get two items, e and index, and let's set the active index to index. And when we are closing it, maybe make sure it is not active, so -1 again. And now we will check if it is active or not. Is active index is equal to index. And now let's use this value in the list item. So as you can see, at the 0.01 opacity is 1, at 0 opacity is 0. So, and in the listing and list item, initially we have the 0.01, so we will make a use effect hook, use effect, and it will run on is active change. Whenever is active changes, we will run it. So if is active is true, so which means this item is active, we need to change the opacity to 0. So spin dot value is equal to with timing 0, and duration will be 10 milliseconds only because we want it instant. And also else we will add the timeout here. Okay, let me show you without timeout how it will. So spin dot value is equal to with timing 0.01, duration is equal to 10, same as this. Okay, I will disable this as we don't want send file. So as you can see, when I clicked on this, it is not visible. This is perfectly fine, but when I'm closing it, it is instantly visible. And if we add the duration to this, then again it is still show some opacity when it is going to 0.01. So we need to add the timeout here. Set timeout, and it will be, if we go to listing, we have the 500 milliseconds. So let's make it to 450, and we will set the spin dot value to 0.01, and let's remove this. So if we do this, now you can see our animation is properly going through, and it is the thing which we wanted always. So we have completed 95% of the part. If I show you next thing, there is some issue with this. Like when I'm scrolling it up, this view is still hanging there. We need to add an open view in the model, and when the portal view is completely open, we have to set the opacity of view in the model to 1 and set the opacity of portal to 0. So let's do that. So in the detail model, I will add the book animation here, and we also need default values. So let's add those values. More detail model, Then we do this, use set value. So it will be at open state. So we will use this. Spin is equal to spin initial x initial y is equal to initial y. So if we do this, I reload, then you can see we have two views. One is attached to the model scroll view and one is the portal view. So now let's set the y-axis for the portal view. It should be 0. It should be 10, I guess. If we do 10 and we reload it, okay, it is still not looking good. So if we go to container and set the y-axis to -300, it is still not looking good. -500, and if I add 500, what will be the value? Okay, this is why we are getting this issue, is because at the when the spin value is 1, the interpolation goes to 410 and they are not using the initial wise value. So for that we can copy this and we can create an open book.js file, and let's copy everything inside this and open book, and we will set the initial x and initial y inside this, and we will not interpolate anything. So it will be initial y dot value and initial x dot value. Set this. So if I do this and in detail model, I use open book, so initial x will be 100, let's say. Okay, so now it is going through, we are getting to the point. So it will be 150 and then we have 20. If we do this, still are facing issues, so it should be 200. Let me check what was the value inside this. So it is 185. Yeah, so x will be 185 in the open book. And if I do this, you can see it is properly aligned to the item which was in the portal view. I can make it more visible if I add it 22. Let's do this. Yeah, so now it is perfectly hidden. And now let's make the opacity again to 0. So book animation, we go here, we will add 0.99, not here, sorry. We will add the opacity to 0.99 and 1. So it will be 1 and then it will be 0. So if we do this, then you can see our portal view is hidden now, and the content which was inside the model is perfectly scrolling. And when we are closing it, it is going down, exactly what we wanted in the animation. We can open it from anywhere. And in the open book, I will set it to 0.99. Yes. And if I do this, let me reload it. Okay, so as the spin is always visible, so we will pass a spin value into this and then we are going to interpolate it. So I will get this spin value from the book animation and then I will pass it inside the listing model and I will use this spin value instead of this. So we have one issue here when we are passing spin value. It is also animating. So in the open book, we know it should be open every time. We just want the opacity to be interpolated. So let's this, we can remove the scale X value as it will be always 1. And for the transformation, it will be always 0 degree. We are not going to use this. And for this, it will be always minus 180. Like whatever we are interpolating, we will just set them to what they want at the 1. So 16, 16. Set opacity will be 0.5. Again, this will be 0 degree. Translate X will be minus 190. And now that's it. Let's check now how it is going. So at 0.09, at 1. So it should be 0 and then it is will be 1. So now if we do this, okay, it should be in degrees. We can remove this as this is only 0 degree. And same for this. So now you can see our animation is working fine. We don't see any glitches in this. If we open this, we go this. So that's all for this video. It was a long video and I hope you have learned something new and gained some fresh insights from it. If you have any queries, you can write down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Also, if you like this type of content and mobile animations, then I encourage you to subscribe to my channel as I post a new video every week. Thank you.